Hey everyone, I'm Ben.
And I'm Sam.
And this is Counterfeit Christianity. It's been fucking ages.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks. Ben has been over to Thailand.
Yeah.
Visited his old homestead.
Yeah. And my wife's family and stuff. We were there 3 weeks ago, but it's been a month since I got back.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, mate, you haven't seen me for like a month. Jeez.
No, it's 2 months.
Yeah, true. Well, another month.
Yeah, I know, it's fucking bad. It's been so hectic because of what we're going to talk about today. Because it's Christmas, right? And Jesus is the reason for the season, isn't he?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Jesus was born on the 25th of December. It wasn't some pagan holiday that the Roman Emperor Constantine changed to Christianity to offset the growing church that was threatening his rule. No.
No, not at all.
I probably gave a bit too much information there in one sentence.
Yeah.
But for those of you catching up, in 300 AD, so 300 Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord, the Emperor Constantine, was he the guy? It was the Roman emperor before him that was burning the Christians as candles. Nero, right?
Probably, I don't know.
I don't know if Constantine was also torturing and killing the Christians, but Constantine had this problem that Christianity was growing inside Rome at this fast pace, and it was like a wildfire. There's no control. It was run by God, and it was a real church full of real people. It wasn't buildings and structures and tithing and hierarchy and all the other horse shit.
It's like religion is. The only thing that we could compare it to today is some sort of house churches, like small little things, but it's still more than that.
But they had a real church going. And so Constantine saw this as a threat, and probably under the advice of his demonic advisors, he just changed the state religion to be Christianity. And then all the Roman pagan holidays like Christmas and Easter, for example. Easter is like a fertility goddess thing with eggs. Eggs have nothing to do with
some
Jesus.
Sort of Ishtar thing.
And then Christmas, I can't even remember. That's the solstice or something.
Yeah, it's another pagan ritual thing.
Yeah,
pagan.
So he just converted these to Christmas. And then we all have this strange notion that Jesus was born on the 25th of December.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people realise that he isn't. A lot of Christians, but they sort of take the idea of Constantine's idea. They say, oh yeah, it's a good idea that we should be doing this so people can hear Jesus' name.
Christians suddenly got told that, oh, you won. Yeah. You're the state religion now. We're all happy. We all love Jesus.
And a lot of Christians nowadays really think that Constantine was a Christian and a good man.
Yeah. The Catholics sell it that way because the Catholic Church, the demonic Catholic Church, came out of that. Yep. And so of course they're going to defend it. And that is like a big pillar of our broken, corrupt Western society we live in is that church. Yeah. And you had the Protestant churches come out of it, but they're no better. They're the same. Different name.
Absolutely.
We got different bishops.
What do we say? It's like they just change their clothes.
Yeah, pretty much.
They change their clothes and do different music.
They're still touching kids on both sides. Pieces of garbage.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people understand that it's not really Jesus' birthday, but like what we're saying is like, I think there's more to it than this. Most
people don't know that there was an actual church. Yeah. You know, people probably heard about Christians being murdered and thrown in the Colosseum and fed to lions and stuff like that. Yeah. That was done by the Romans before they decided to just, we can't beat these guys, so we'll just rename it and take it over. They did a coup and they just polluted Christianity and made it their own thing.
And now the nasty thing that the institutional church is now is what it's become.
It's come from that.
And it's like pretty much the same or even worse. But it's like we don't have a problem with Christmas and what it really is. Like it's not a problem for us.
I love Christmas. Get together, have some presents, have some good food.
Yeah. So we're not saying don't do Christmas if you really believe in God. No, not at all.
But don't tell me Christmas is about Jesus.
Yeah, it's not at all.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, I have a friend who I was talking to the other day, and I said to him, I just asked him a question. I know they're not Christians. He doesn't. Their family certainly isn't. They don't consider themselves that. I said, well, what do you like the most about Christmas? And he's like, oh, it's Jesus' birthday. Like he thought I wanted to hear that, but he didn't know I'm a follower of Jesus or anything. So I'm like, no. What do you like about Christmas? I'm like, I know that means nothing to you. So what do you like about Christmas?
So even someone who's not sort of in the Christian fold,
they say it,
and they still feel obligated to say it.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's so weird.
Interesting.
Yeah, but
I think it's sort of, we were talking about this before, but it might box Jesus in. It's like, I don't have to talk to Jesus every day, which is real worship, like a relationship and living day to day with Jesus is worship. Going there once a year and go, I better pull Jesus out of his box.
Just in case.
It's Christmas. I'll pull him out of his box again on Easter.
Yep.
Maybe for 3 days. Not on the first day though, because he died then, right? He won't hear me. I shouldn't make fun of that, but Jesus will forgive me.
Yeah, right, because we know him. He's chill with that. He's like the best, awesome friend you could ever have.
I mean, he knows I'm only joking.
Yeah.
I know he died for me, and I appreciate it.
And the good thing is, that's what grace is. Even if you mean him harm, he still loves you. You cannot hurt his feelings. It's like the best mate you could ever have.
It's like a big dad who's rolling his eyes at his kid chucking a tantrum.
Yeah. Here we go. Yeah.
Here, buddy. Feel better. Or go to your room.
It's but that idea of like worship, we've talked about that before in a previous video somewhere along the line, but it's like the church like to say worship is one thing, like sing music in a church, but it's actually not. Worship is being with Jesus every single day and living your life with him. Like that's what we
well, I mean, I couldn't live like that any other way. But I think the church has deliberately, or the false church has deliberately designed it in such a way that they're trying to encourage you not to do that.
Exactly like Constantine though, right? He's like, this is what it is, so you do it here. Yeah. And then you're good.
You do it here, because we want to stop you from actually talking to Jesus all day, because then you might listen to him and then you won't need us.
And be free.
Yeah. We don't want you to be free. You have to talk to Jesus through me. Yep. I'm the priest. I talk to God. What are you, some lowly peasant? Get back into the pew.
That's exactly what Constantine did.
That's what
the institutional church is now. And that's what we're trying to say.
I'm the pastor. I'm up the front. Give me your money. You better be nice to me or I'll send you to hell.
Yep, exactly.
It is like that.
Yep. And that's what they're trying to do with Christmas. That's why they say Jesus is the reason for the season, even though he ain't, because they were trying to box him up and say, remember him now. But actually, if you're with him, he's with you in every single part of your life. Like we were just talking about it before, and like, what does it mean to be with Jesus for you? Or be with God? Like, I don't think it's a problem with what you call him.
Like he's always there. Like everything I do and think and say and see and hear or whatever,
it filters through him.
Yeah, it's like he's like a permanent part of my heart. It's like a filter. Or a permanent companion. You know. Like he's so close. Like they say in the Bible, God's closer than a breath.
That's
how I
so
describe
true.
it. Like I take the world and I sort of run it against God to ask him how it works. But I don't necessarily always go, hey, God, you know, it's so intrinsic that it's sort of part of who I am. Sometimes you will, like, hey, I really need this today. Please help me. Like the other day I needed something for work and it was awesome. I had this really big order that I was waiting for. And I was like, I need this today, please. Maybe like an hour later, came through. I was like, yes! You know, that's the sort of time you ask directly. But for most of the life,
it's just like
I think worship
just a continual flow.
Yeah, you're always with him. He's always with you. So, and I think one of the big tragedies of modern Christianity,
religion, any sort of religion,
is that they have got God and Jesus boxed in. Like, oh, you do it on Sunday or on these specific days or when you go to Connect group. Whatever they call it now, small groups.
All the same, whatever they call it, it's the same thing.
And those things have value on their own, like meeting together in small groups, for example.
It's good as long as it's not like a part of the system. It's like, you don't want to like line it up and make it happen. But I think it's difference between systematic and intentionality too. Like with a group of friends, it's good to be intentional with each other.
I think a lot of people can probably go to church and maybe experience some of the knowledge of God, but they don't actually know him.
It's funny because sometimes the knowledge of God separates you from him.
That's true. Especially when the world and institutional religion uses knowledge of God as a weapon against you, to condemn you all the time. You know, even though the same book they pull it out of says, you know, fear not, and there is no condemnation for he who is in Christ Jesus. You know, we'll just forget about those when we're trying to preach at you on Sunday and make you afraid, so you give us more money. Like I 100% agree with that. It's like for me when I think about being with God, it's I asked him one time, we've talked about this as well, but I asked him, what do you want me to call you? And he said, call me Daddy. And at that time, I'd never called anyone Daddy, let alone my own dad, I never called him that. I call him Dad too.
And I call him that Daddy, Dad, all the time. That's how I refer to him. This was years ago. And then I noticed, like, I love the relationship that David had with God. He was just like with him all the time. And he was just living with him. It's like, that's
and
exactly
the world openly despised him.
Like, his family despised him.
And he's like, I don't care, I'm with God, it's for you.
Exactly.
And then God made anyone who tried to humiliate David look like a total fool. Remember that chick, his first wife, what was her name? She was
Michael?
She was a real mole.
I think it was Michael. I think that's how you pronounce it, or Mikhail, or...
You're right.
I think so. Maybe that's somebody else.
Well, she was making fun of him.
It was Saul's daughter.
He was dancing.
And
God's like, well, no kids for you. Well, if you're dry on the inside, like, we'll just make sure you don't pass that on to your children because you're not worthy of the king. Sorry.
That's an interesting take on it.
Don't mess with someone who knows God well, because God looks after his own. God is kind and God is, humble, and he wouldn't go his way to hurt anybody. But if you try and hurt the people he loves, he's going to get you. He is.
It happens a lot, yeah. As long as, I'm thinking about the idea, we've talked about this, I don't want to talk about it too long because we're running out of time, but like the idea of heart over mind and like sometimes, because the mind is like us and this is how I would explain heart over mind. Heart is how we connect with God and we are with Him. If we are with Him via the heart, we can be free. But then the mind and the world always tries to overtake that and you try and figure your way out of things instead of flowing in it with God. And that happens to me a lot. And so I always try and
in the Bible, I think they call that the flesh versus the spirit.
That's it.
And they're always competing against each other.
That's another
the
awesome
flesh comes from the world. The mind comes from the world. We're brought up in the world.
We are in it, so we can't do anything about that.
So the mind can oppose the heart in ourselves. We can oppose ourselves.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this as well. But our biggest problem is that we are messing with ourselves all the time. It's like all of our problems come from ourselves. From me. All my problems come from me.
Yeah, most of them. I think it's the same for most people.
Yeah. Except we don't realise that.
So I guess what I've been learning recently is to put the heart above that and know that the peace and the truth that comes from God, the freedom that comes from God is what I can dwell on.
Yeah.
Because your mind wants you to dwell on worrying about stuff, or that's going to happen, or that's going to happen, or you've got to do this, or that's coming up.
Yeah.
You know, it's like...
Yep.
You know, and you put that up here, and then it's overriding your heart.
Yeah.
But if you can flip that and put your real trust in this, and have the mind
be with God,
be secondary, and I think it's going to take a bit of training.
It takes a lot of. It takes heaps of training.
It's going to change my life.
Yeah.
You know, I had this Russian boss a long time ago, and he used to say, "Sam, you leave problem alone. 90% problem solve itself." You know, and I was like, I think he's right.
Yeah.
Like, because I would always be worried about trying to fix everything, and that's going around this one. It's like, chill.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of these things, if you just leave them and focus on the important things, they fix themselves.
It sounded like God was talking
without
to
the Russian accent.
Yeah, well, you never know. God, for Russians, he'll have a Russian accent. Yeah. So I know that's pretty cool. That was a good convo. All right, maybe we could leave it at that. But yeah, Jesus is not the reason for the season. Jesus is the reason for life.
If you want to read about it, there's a good book called Pagan Christianity that talks about it specifically. It even goes into detail about sort of the origin of the modern pastor, because we used to have these people who travel around, they call themselves orators, and they're like performers, right? And they go and they perform in front of crowds and talk about the Bible and Christianity or whatever. They weren't believers before. They were traveling.
They only talked about it.
They were traveling talkers.
Yeah. They knew that it made money. So
like an Andrew Tate or whatever.
Yeah, or like a institutional pastor. That's exactly what they are.
That's what the pastors have become these days. And so out of that, these orators, these people who give these great speeches and stuff, that became the norm. And that's why people go on Sundays to hear a great speech and be motivated for the rest of the week. It's like, that is not worshipping God.
No. It's actually, we think it's worshipping Baal, because the church and the way that it's run is run in the system of Baal.
Baal and Ishtar.
Yep.
So read Pagan Christianity.
It's
great
a really good
It's not that long. It's very informative.
You can listen to it. It's on an audio book too.
True.
It's great.
So I got it on my Kindle.
Yeah.
But
that's really cool. But yeah, Jesus is the reason for life. He's the reason that we're alive, and He's the only thing that keeps us alive.
Jesus is the reason for all seasons.
Yeah, every season. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
So yeah.